Two dark-robed figures race through Guizhou Temple with flames in hand as the search grows desperate. When they realize Yise, Ilchui, Wuljang, and Gojil are missing as well, the commotion in the hall turns into a panic over children who may already be far beyond the temple walls. Unknown says, "The children are gone?" Mongryeon's voice hangs over the scene, pleading for them to come back safe while the others are still missing. Then the story settles on a lone figure in the mountains and the title, setting the tone for a chapter about how much loss these kids can carry. Unknown says, "Come back safe, you guys." Yise looks back and decides that rushing in would only get him killed for nothing. So he keeps the demon in sight, follows its trail, and chooses to use that path to find its lair instead of throwing away his chance to return with real force. Yise says, "I'll only die for nothing." Even after making that call, Yise keeps wrestling with it, especially because his family is driving so much of what he does. He insists it was the best judgment he could make, yet the dark framing and wounded figures around him keep the choice from ever feeling clean. Unknown says, "The best judgment I could make." Yise turns the blame inward, saying this pain exists because demons exist at all, which shows how deeply the loss has shaken him. Before that grief can settle, Guichin, the Guizhou Temple patrol officer, steps in and starts demanding answers about what happened and where the other children went. Unknown says, all of this is because demons exist. Guichin pushes harder, and the truth finally comes out. The group met the wailing dragon demon in the forest, got separated while escaping, and Gojil was eaten. With that, the mission changes completely, because now everyone is dealing with a death that has already happened. Unknown says, Goegol was eaten by the demon. Once the enemy is named, everyone reacts at once, because the wailing dragon demon is a horse-shaped demon with many faces. Guichin speaks like someone who has dealt with this before and insists he knows the threat near Guizhou Temple, but the others are still thinking about the children who remain missing. Unknown says, "What does it look like?" Guichin warns them to run if they meet the demon, and one voice answers, "Understood." But the fight in the forest turns ugly fast when a blue-haired fighter is struck hard enough to cough blood, making it clear the demon is already too close for any easy retreat. The survivors try to pull away before the demon can chase them down, hoping they have shaken it off. But the blood on the ground, Wuljang's injury, and the name of Gojil hanging over everything make it clear that escaping has not erased the guilt at all. Unknown says, "If we've made it this far, it won't be able to chase us. Right?" The argument turns on Yise when one fighter says they would have been better off without him in the way. Another calls the whole thing a disgrace, both as a demon hunter and as Gojil's brother, while the injured blue-haired fighter remains bloodied and silent in the middle of it. Unknown says, "You idiot." A blow lands, and the blue-haired fighter freezes in shock when he finally sees the orange-brown creature pressing the group. It is small, but the oversized head, the tendrils, and the baby-like ghost shape make the whole fight feel wrong as well as dangerous. Unknown says, "This thing." The fight turns vicious, with blood splattering between faces as the blue-haired fighter lunges downward in rage. He shouts that a mere demon should not have done this, then blames the human side of the disaster for clouding his judgment and making everything worse. Unknown says, "How dare a mere demon?" The blue-haired fighter wants another chance to throw himself at the demon and avenge Gojil with the spiked iron club. The others answer with the same grief, promising to kill all the demons, and Guichin steps back into the center of the fight with enough force to change the flow. Unknown says, "We'll kill all the demons and avenge Gojil." The cost of the fight becomes impossible to ignore when the blue-haired fighter appears bloodied and shaken beside a body in a pool of blood. Wuljang's name is called from the chaos, and the grotesque creature looming in the red-blue light makes it obvious the group is losing control fast. Unknown says, "Wol. Jang." Two hands locked together in the middle of the blood, and the anger spills straight into direct attacks. One side swears to crush the demon for what it did to Wuljang, while the other answers with the spiked iron club and a vow to fight for the little brothers. Unknown says, "With this spiked iron club." The white-haired figure in the red glare looks almost ceremonial, with blood on the face and glowing eyes. Then the combat snaps back into motion, and a child of Guizu Temple is singled out as someone you do not touch, turning the pain into a direct challenge. Unknown says, "How dare you lay a hand on a child of Guizu Temple?" The blue-haired fighter is still bloodied, but now he is told to take Ilchui and stay back while someone else handles the demon. In the middle of the fight, Yise also calls Guichin uncle, which shows how close the family and temple ties are even here. Unknown says, "I'll deal with this demon." The battle grows louder and more reckless as the demon and Guichin keep tearing up the scene. Someone decides to stay behind and help Lord Guichin, because backing off now would mean letting the whole fight collapse, even though the choice is still poisoned by guilt. Unknown says, "This ends now." One fighter admits Guichin is already stronger than the Wailing Dragon demon, but says demon hunting is not supposed to rely on brute force alone. That warning leads straight into the horned child crying, "It's us, uncle," which makes the demon's trick feel personal and deliberate. The panic gets uglier when the children beg not to be hurt and the red-haired fighter snaps at the monster for pretending to be them. Wuljang and Gojil are both named in the wreckage, and the blood-splattered clash makes it clear the demon is forcing mistakes instead of fighting cleanly. Unknown says, "Please, don't hurt us." A hand and staff blur across the page while the blue-haired fighter shouts that they were promised staff techniques and had waited a long time for this day. The next panel keeps the grief personal, with a red-haired figure lying low and another voice insisting they are still alive, but barely. Unknown says, "You promised to teach us staff techniques." The truth is finally spoken out loud, these are not the children, and Guichin knows it. The narration explains that the demon crushes prey together and clouds judgment by stirring emotions, which is why everyone keeps slipping into rage instead of making clean decisions. Unknown says that these are not the children. The demon starts panicking as its prey cries for help, because the trick was meant to weaken them and break their will. Instead, the narration shows that the prey has not broken the way it wanted, and a black-haired fighter drives an upward strike into the red-haired target's torso. Unknown says, "Save me." The last stretch is all motion, blood, and one more reveal about what the demon has been doing inside the fight. The narration says an anomalous being was mixed in among its prey, and the page makes it plain that this thing is a demon, not a lost child and not an innocent bystander. Unknown says, "This is a demon." By the end of the chapter, Guichin is still fighting, the children are still in danger, and the Wailing Dragon demon has been exposed as far more deceptive than anyone expected.